I've been sitting here spraying weeds, trying to come up with a good joke to open this one with, and I got nothing. Jacky Rosen, the only jokes I could come up with were relating her to Jackie Robinson, and that really made no sense at all. So you're not getting an opening joke for this one. It's just Jacky Rosen, the senator from Nevada, is this week's political figure episode. Jacqueline Cheryl Spector was born August 2nd, 1957 in Chicago, Illinois. After high school, Jackie would go on to get a bachelor's in psychology from my home state at the University of Minnesota. Psych degree, Minnesota, I like her already. Well, at college, her parents moved out to Las Vegas, and she followed them out there after graduating, which is how she ended up in Nevada. In Nevada, she bounced between jobs for a while before going back and getting her associates in computer programming. Then she worked for an energy company called Southwest Gas before striking out on her own to do software consulting. Honestly, there's not a ton of information readily available in her life leading up to public office, so I don't have a whole lot to go on here. Also, how she decided to run for public office, because apparently in 2016, Senator Harry Reid was just like, hey, Jacqueline, you should run for Congress. What? Now I gave it a solid 5-10 minutes of searching to figure out how she knew Harry Reid and why he decided to pick some random computer programming lady with no political experience and tell her to run for Congress, and I couldn't find anything. Now, I'm not saying the answer's not out there. I'm sure it is. But you think that this would be more readily available information, like just random soccer mom nobody's ever heard of, and then Harry Reid, the Senate Minority Leader, is just like, you should do Congress. And then she did. She ran for Congress and won. And nobody's out there mentioning how that happened. Like, we've got 14 freaking origin story movies for Spider-Man and Batman, but not one snippet on Wikipedia about how Harry met Jackie. Now this random nondescript white lady nobody'd ever heard of with seemingly no qualifications was suddenly Nevada's 3rd representative. Then immediately she's like, okay, been here, done that, now Senate. So she served 1 term as a congresswoman, and the very next election she ran for U.S. Senate. And Nevada must be incredibly enamored with her because they elected her, a freshman congresswoman with no political experience, now U.S. Senator, in 2018. What's even more noteworthy about that, she was only one of 2 non-incumbent Democrats to win a Senate seat in the 2018 midterm election. And the other one was Kristen Sinema, so she was basically the only Democrat. I guess Harry Reid knew how to pick them. Still don't know why or how he knew how to pick them, but apparently he did. As a senator, she's not exactly progressive. She skews liberal on a few topics and is just painfully moderate on many others. Her biggest donor is AIPAC, Blackstone's way up there, Google's another big one. You get the vibe. Instead of single-payer health insurance, she supports a program where you could buy into Medicare like it was private insurance, except, it's public, and allow Medicare to compete with private insurance, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it would be better than what we've got. She supports comprehensive immigration reform, but is not in favor of abolishing ICE. She broke with Democrats to make Trump's tax cuts permanent. She's just painfully meh for a progressive soul like mine. But she at least supports a $15 an hour minimum wage, although that's even a little low now. She fought to lower prescription drug and insulin prices. She's worked with housing and urban development on housing programs to help address the housing crisis we have in our country. She's been a strong proponent of STEM funding and worked on the STEM Act, which was signed into law. She supports education, unions, subsidized childcare, all good stuff. She's had a pretty good track record on being bipartisan to get stuff done. 90% of the legislation she's introduced has been bipartisan legislation. And she voted with Trump 36% of the time, which is a thing. But I think what's most notable, as she's currently running for re-election again, which is, surprising. I figured she would have thrown her hat in the ring for president or something. 1 Senate term is more than enough, right? But she is running for re-election, and she is very much pro women's health, women's bodily autonomy, women's right to choose. And in our current political climate and society, that is one of the most important issues to be on the right side of. And that's especially important considering the person she's running against, Sam Brown, has made a career of being militantly anti-abortion. He led a branch of the Faith and Freedom Coalition, which lobbied for and supported incredibly strict abortion bans, including Texas's abortion ban. All of this despite his wife having had an abortion 2 days before they met. Side note, why do they keep putting freedom in the name of organizations that solely exist to take away freedoms from people? Just odd. And now Sam Brown is trying to exploit his wife's abortion story to make it seem like he's softened his opinion on abortion and he can empathize and he understands what women are going through. It turns out trying to oppress and subjugate women's bodies isn't as popular of a policy as Republicans were hoping it would be. And breaking news, it turns out politicians will lie to get elected. And Sam Brown is clearly a lying piece of shit. Just look at his record and do not believe him when he says he will not support a national abortion ban when he has personally fought for the strictest abortion bans in the country. And do not trust a man who's willing to exploit his wife's deeply personal story about something that happened to her before they met, all because his policy platforms and ideals are so dog shit he can't actually run on those. I'm not saying Jacqueline Rosen would be my first pick for anything. But when the options are as cut and dry as one candidate has dedicated large parts of his life to trying to take away women's freedoms, bodily autonomy, and endanger their lives, and the other one has a consistent track record of being like, yeah, we shouldn't do that. Let's not do that. In my eyes, the option is pretty obvious. And also remember that it's the Senate that confirms Supreme Court justices, so keep that in mind. You know what? A moderate, bipartisan candidate in a state as purple as Nevada, probably not a bad thing. And now her seat is certainly anything but certain, so hopefully, Nevada, you haven't lost your luster for Jacky.